Dr. Nari Helen brushed the dust from the ancient crystal with careful fingers. The artifact glowed softly in the dim light of the excavation tent. She had been working on this dead world for 3 months, searching through ruins that were older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Another fairy tale crystal, her assistant muttered, not looking up from his own work. Nadashri ignored him. She had heard that comment too many times. Most scholars thought her work was a waste of time. They said she was chasing stories that children told each other to scare themselves before sleep. But Nari had found something different in these crystals, something that made her heart race with excitement and fear. She placed the crystal into the reader machine. The soft blue light filled the tent as data flowed across her screen. Ancient words appeared, written in a language that was supposed to be extinct. Nari had spent years learning to read these symbols. Most people said the language never existed at all. The words told a story. They always told stories. But this story was different from the others she had found. They came from the third world, of a yellow star, Nari read aloud. They walked on 2 legs like us, but their eyes held something we had never seen, something that made us step back even when they smiled. They called themselves humans. Her assistant finally looked up. Humans again? Nari, you have been reading about these imaginary creatures for years. There is no proof they ever existed. Nari continued reading. The humans fought with metal weapons that threw small pieces of metal very fast. They fought when they were hurt. They fought when they were dying. They fought when everyone said they should stop fighting. We learned to fear the sound of their weapons. We learned to fear the look in their eyes when they would not give up. See, her assistant said. More scary stories. The old civilizations made up monsters to explain why bad things happened to them. But Nari was not listening anymore. The crystal was showing her something new, something that made her hands shake as she read. We tried to make peace with them, humans. We offered them everything we had. We offered them worlds to rule and ships to fly. But they said they would not bow to anyone. They said they would rather die fighting than live on their knees. We did not understand these words then. We understand them now. The humans are gone, but their ghost ships still sail between the stars. If you see them, run. If you hear their war songs, pray. The humans are coming. Nari stared at the screen. At the bottom of the text was something she had never seen before, a star map. Coordinates that pointed to a place in space that no one had ever explored. She reached for her communication device with shaking hands. Admiral Taemin Vorth needed to see this. The Galactic Confederation needed to know what she had found. Even if they did not believe her. 2 weeks later, Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his ship, the Serenity's Dawn. He was a tall Calaxian with blue skin and 4 arms. His people were known for being calm and logical. They did not believe in fairy tales. But he was looking at the crystal data that Nari had sent him, and he felt something he had not felt in many years. Worry. Sir, Commander Bora Thex said, from her station. Bora was young for a Vraxian, with green scales that shimmered when she moved. The Confederation Council has approved our mission. We are to investigate these coordinates and report back. Taemin nodded. The council had laughed when they heard about Nari's discovery. They said it would be good for the young admiral to take a little trip to empty space. It would teach him not to believe in ghost stories. But Taemin had read the crystal data himself. He had studied the old records. There were too many stories about humans in too many places. Stories from civilizations that had never met each other. Stories that were too similar to be made up. How long until we reach the coordinates? He asked. 3 days at maximum speed, Bora replied. Dr. Nari was on the ship too. She had insisted on coming, even though space travel made her sick. She spent most of her time in the science lab, reading more crystal data and making notes that no one else could understand. The crew did not take the mission seriously. They joked about hunting ghosts and finding empty space. Some of them made up stories about scary humans with glowing eyes and metal teeth. They laughed and said they would capture a human and keep it as a pet. Min did not laugh. He remembered the old stories his grandmother had told him when he was young. Stories about the time of darkness, when terrible wars had swept across the galaxy. His grandmother had whispered about creatures that fought without honor and killed without mercy. She had called them different names, but the stories were always the same. On the second day of their journey, Bora found something in the ship's old databanks, information that had been marked as historical fiction and forgotten for hundreds of years. "Sir," she said, showing him the data on her screen, "I found references to humans in our own records. They are very old, from before the time of the Ya." "Quiet. Most of it has been marked as stories, but there are too many details to be made up." Taemin read the information. It described battles fought with primitive weapons, ships that flew straight into enemy fire without trying to escape, soldiers who kept fighting even when they were badly hurt. It described creatures that seemed to enjoy war. "There is something else," Bora said quietly. "I found records of the last human sighting. It was 3,000 years ago, right before the time of quiet began. A human ship was seen near the edge of the galaxy. The report says it was flying toward unknown space." Taemin felt cold. 3,000 years was a long time. Long enough for a species to grow strong. Long enough for them to build new weapons. Long enough for them to plan revenge against the galaxy that had driven them away. Dr. Nari came to the bridge on the third day. She looked pale and worried. In her hands, she carried a new crystal that she had been working on. "Admiral," she said, "I have translated more of the data. There is something you need to know." She activated the crystal reader. Words appeared on the main screen, words that made everyone on the bridge stop talking. The humans did not die. They learned. They watched. They waited. They built ships in the darkness between stars. Ships that could destroy worlds. Ships that could travel faster than light itself. The humans are still out there. They remember every world that turned them away. They remember every species that tried to destroy them. They are coming back, and when they return, the galaxy will burn. The bridge was completely quiet. Even the soft sound of the ship's engines seemed too loud. "How old is this crystal?" Taemin asked. 500 years, Nari whispered. Tai-Min looked at the star map on his screen. The yellow star was only a few hours away now. Soon they would know if the stories were true. Soon they would know if humans were real. "All crew to battle stations," he ordered. Bo-Ra looked surprised. "Sir, we are on a research mission." "Maybe," Taemin said, "but I would rather be ready for war and find empty space than be unprepared and find humans." The crew moved quickly to their positions. Weapons were charged, shields were raised. The peaceful research ship became ready for battle in minutes. As they approached the yellow star, long-range sensors began picking up signals, artificial signals, signals that came from machines built by intelligent creatures. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting multiple objects in orbit around the third planet. They appear to be space stations. Very large space stations." Taemin's 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair. "Are they responding to our signals?" "No, sir. They seem to be watching us." The main screen showed the yellow star growing larger. Around the third planet, they could see lights. Thousands of lights. A civilization that was supposed to be extinct was very much alive. "Sir," Bora said, her voice shaking slightly, "I am detecting weapon signatures. Those space stations are armed. Heavily armed." Dr. Nari stared at the screen. After years of studying dead crystals and ancient stories, she was looking at living proof that humans existed. She should have felt happy. Instead, she felt terrified. "Open a communication channel," Taemin ordered. "Send the standard first contact message." The communication officer worked at his station. "Channel open, sir. Sending standard greeting, in all known languages." They waited. The ship moved closer to the human system. The space stations continued to watch them. No response came. Then, suddenly, the communication board lit up with incoming signals. A voice spoke from the speakers. It was speaking perfect galactic standard, the common language of the Confederation. Confederation vessel Serenity's Dawn, this is Earth Defense Control. You are entering human space. State your intentions. Everyone on the bridge stared at each other. The humans had been listening to their communications for who knew how long. They had learned the galaxy's languages. They had been watching and waiting. Tai-Min took a deep breath. This is Admiral Tai-Min Vorth of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace, seeking first contact with your species. A pause. Then the voice spoke again. Admiral Vorth, you may approach Earth. A delegation will meet with you. Be aware that any hostile action will result in immediate destruction of your vessel. Earth Defense Control out. The communication ended. The bridge was silent except for the quiet beeping of instruments. Dr. Nari looked at the star map one more time. All those years of studying crystals and reading ancient stories had led to this me. The human shuttle was smaller than any diplomatic vessel Admiral Tai-Min had ever seen. It moved through space with sharp, quick movements that reminded him of a hunting animal. As it approached the Serenity's Dawn, he could see weapons built into its hull. Even their diplomatic ships were ready for war. Shuttle requesting permission to dock, the communication officer reported. Grant permission, Tai-Min said. He straightened his uniform and checked his translator device. This was the most important first contact in 3,000 years. Everything had to be perfect. Ambassador Hyunwoo Chen was not what Tai-Min had expected. The human was shorter than most Confederation species, with brown skin and dark hair. He wore a simple black uniform with no decorations. But his eyes were alert and intelligent, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had seen many dangerous places. Admiral Vorth, Hyunwoo said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. I am Ambassador Chen. Thank you for coming to our system. Tai-Min carefully shook the human's hand. The grip was firm and strong. Ambassador Chen, it is an honor to finally meet your species. We have much to discuss. Hyunwoo nodded. Indeed we do. My escort and I are ready to begin whenever you are. Two other humans had come with the ambassador. Captain Jae-hyun Clark was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands. Lieutenant So-young Martinez was younger, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Both wore the same black uniforms as the ambassador. Dr. Nari was waiting in the conference room, with her crystal data ready to show. She was excited to meet the people she had been studying for so many years. Commander Bo-Ra was there too, taking notes on everything the humans said and did. Before we begin, Hyunwoo said, I should tell you that we know who you are. We have been watching the Confederation for centuries. We have learned your languages and studied your cultures. We know about the time of quiet and your peaceful ways. Tai-Min felt uncomfortable. You have been watching us for how long? Since we left the galaxy 3,000 years ago, Captain Clark said. His voice was rough and hard. We had to know if you were planning to follow us and finish what you started. What we started? Bo-Ra asked, confused. Lieutenant Martinez spoke for the first time. The war. The attempt to wipe out humanity because we would not follow your rules. The attacks on our colonies because we refused to give up our weapons. Dr. Nari looked at her crystal data. But the records say that humans were aggressive, that you attacked peaceful worlds. Hyunwoo's expression did not change. Doctor, your records were written by the winners. The truth is more complex. Yes, we fought wars. Yes, we were violent. But we were also defending ourselves against species that wanted to control us. That was 3,000 years ago, Tai-Min said. The galaxy has changed. We have found peace. We have learned to solve problems without violence. Captain Clark laughed, but it was not a happy sound. You have found peace because there was no one left to fight. You drove out or destroyed every species that disagreed with you. Then you called it peace. That is not true, Bo-Ra said angrily. The Confederation is made up of hundreds of different species living together in harmony. Species that all think the same way, So-young said. Species that all gave up their weapons and their independence. Tell me, Commander, what happens to worlds that do not want to join your Confederation? Bo-Ra opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. She knew the answer and she did not like it. We encourage them to see the benefits of peace. Taemin said carefully. You force them, Hyunwoo said. You cut off their trade. You block their communications. You surround their worlds with ships until they surrender. You just do it slowly and call it diplomacy. The room was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Nari looked at her crystal data again. The ancient records suddenly made more sense. What do you want from us? Taemin asked finally. Nothing, Hyunwoo said. We want to be left alone. We have built our own worlds in the darkness between stars. We have our own ships and our own ways. We do not need your peace. But you could join us, Bora said. You could lay down your weapons and become part of something greater. You could help build a better galaxy. Captain Clark stood up. His movement was smooth and quick, like a fighter ready for battle. Commander, let me explain something to you. In the past 3,000 years, humans have faced threats that would make your worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. We have fought creatures from other galaxies. We have survived plagues that killed entire worlds. We have learned to fight in ways that your peaceful species cannot imagine. And we survived, So Young added, because we never forgot how to fight. Because we never trusted anyone else to protect us. Because we kept our weapons sharp and our soldiers ready. Dr. Nari was reading something on her datapad. The crystals mention ghost ships, ships that sail between the stars. Are those real? Hyunwoo smiled for the first time since arriving. Doctor, would you like to see one? Before anyone could answer, So Young touched a device on her wrist. The lights in the conference room dimmed, and the wall screen activated. It showed space outside the ship, where a new vessel was moving toward them. The ship was huge, bigger than any Confederation vessel Taemin had ever seen. It was dark gray, almost black, with sharp edges and weapon ports covering its hull. It moved silently through space like a predator stalking prey. The EDF Soul, Captain Clark said proudly. One of our newer destroyers. She is carrying enough firepower to crack a small moon. Taemin stared at the warship. How many ships like this do you have? Enough, Hyunwoo said simply. Why are you showing us this? Bora asked. Are you trying to threaten us? No, So Young said. We are trying to make you understand. Humans are not fairy tale monsters. We are not extinct legends. We are here, we are real, and we are not going away. But surely, Dr. Nari said, after all this time you must want peace. You must be tired of war. Captain Clark sat back down. When he spoke, his voice was sad. Doctor, humans do not love war. We hate it. Every battle costs us people we care about. Every fight leaves scars that never heal. But we learned something that your peaceful species forgot. What is that? Taemin asked. Sometimes, Hyunwoo said, peace can only exist when good people are willing to fight for it. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to hit back harder than they hit you. Sometimes you have to be willing to die for what you believe in. Your confederation has been peaceful for 3,000 years, So Young said. But what happens when something comes along that does not want peace? What happens when you meet an enemy that wants to destroy you just because you exist? We would negotiate, Bora said. We would find a peaceful solution. And if they refuse to negotiate? Captain Clark asked. If they laugh at your peaceful solutions and attack your worlds anyway? What then? Bora had no answer. That is why humans still exist, Hyunwoo said. Because we never forgot that sometimes the only choice is between fighting and dying. Admiral Taemin looked around the room. The conversation was not going the way he had hoped. He had expected to welcome humans back to galactic civilization. Instead, he was learning that maybe humans had never wanted to be part of that civilization in the first place. What happens now? He asked. Now, Hyunwoo said, you go back to your confederation. You tell them what you have seen here. You tell them that humans are real, we are strong, and we are not interested in joining your peaceful galaxy. And if they do not accept that? Dr. Nari asked. Captain Clark and Lieutenant Martinez looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then, Hyunwoo said quietly. They will learn why the old stories about humans were told in whispers. They will learn why 3,000 years ago, an entire galaxy was happy to see us leave. The meeting ended with polite words and formal goodbyes, but as the human shuttle returned to Earth, everyone on the Serenity's dawn knew that something fundamental had changed. That night, Taemin stood alone on the observation deck, looking at the human space stations orbiting Earth. Each one was armed with weapons that could destroy his ship in seconds. Behind him, he could hear crew members talking in worried voices about what they had learned. Dr. Nari joined him at the window. All those years, she said softly, I thought I was studying ancient history. I thought humans were just another extinct species. What do you think now? Taemin asked. She pointed at the space stations. I think we just woke up something that was sleeping. I think the galaxy is about to remember why it was afraid of humans in the first place. Taemin nodded. Tomorrow he would have to send a report to the Confederation Council. He would have to tell them that the peaceful galaxy they had built might not be as safe as they thought. Outside the window, human ships moved through space like sharks in dark water, waiting, watching, ready for whatever came next. The emergency session of the Confederation Council had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the great chamber on Centerworld, their voices rising in panic and anger. Admiral Taemin stood at the center podium, tired from answering the same questions over and over. You are telling us, said Councillor Veltar of the Zephyrian Union, that these humans have weapons that could destroy our worlds? Yes, Taemin replied for the 10th time. Their technology is focused on warfare. Their entire culture is built around conflict. Impossible, declared Councillor Rinshaw from the Peaceful Systems Alliance. No species could survive for 3,000 years living that way. They would have destroyed themselves. General Inho Voss sat in the military advisor section, saying nothing. He was the oldest being in the chamber, one of the few who remembered the time of darkness before the Great Peace. His people, the Calaxians, lived longer than most species. Inho had seen real war, and he did not like what he was hearing about. Humans. Dr. Yoonji Kaur, the Council's chief military strategist, was studying data on her tablet. She was a young Calaxian, brilliant but untested in real combat. Her job had been mostly theoretical for her entire career. The Confederation had not fought a real war in 3,000 years. Admiral, Yoonji said, you mentioned that the humans have been watching us. What exactly does that mean? Taemin activated a holographic display showing star charts. We found listening posts in 17 systems along our border, hidden stations that have been recording our communications for centuries. The humans know our ship movements, our military capabilities, even our diplomatic codes. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several councillors demanded immediate action. Others called for more talks with the humans. A few suggested that the whole thing was an elaborate hoax. Order, called the council speaker. General Voss, you have been silent. What is your assessment? Inho stood slowly. His ancient joints creaked as he moved to the speaker's podium. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but everyone listened. I am old, he said. I remember the time of darkness. I remember when species fought wars that lasted for centuries. I remember planets turned to glass by weapons we have forgotten how to build. He paused, looking around the chamber. I also remember the stories about humans. Stories, Councillor Veltar said dismissively. Children's tales. No, Inho said firmly. Not stories. Reports. Military intelligence from civilizations that fought against humans and lost. I have read the classified files that most of you have never seen. The humans were not just warriors. They were the kind of warriors that other warriors feared. Dr. Yoonji activated her own display. General, I have been analyzing the data from Admiral Taemin's mission. The human ship designs are completely focused on offense. They have no exploration vessels, no science ships, no diplomatic cruisers. Everything they build is designed to kill. What does that tell us? Asked the council speaker. It tells us, Yoonji said, that they expect to fight. They have spent 3,000 years preparing for war. The question is, War against whom? Admiral. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. Against us. They have been preparing to fight us. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Admiral Da-Yoon Thompson stood on the bridge of the EDF Sol. She was a veteran of the Outer Dark campaigns, battles fought against things that had tried to invade human space from beyond the galaxy. Her ship bore scars from conflicts that the Confederation could not imagine. Status report, she ordered. Captain Minho Briggs, commander of the destroyer Sol's Fury, appeared on the communication screen. Admiral, we have 17 Confederation ships on long-range sensors. They are staying just outside our territory, but they are definitely watching us. Let them watch, Da-Un said. What about the listening posts? All secure. The aliens found some of them, but we have hundreds more they do not know about. We are still receiving their communications. Lieutenant, Commander Woojin Harper joined the conversation from his special operations ship. Admiral, my teams are ready. If this goes bad, we can take out their command vessels before they know what hit them. Da-Un nodded. Woojin's commandos were the best the human military had ever produced. They had been fighting impossible battles. For 3,000 years, always outnumbered, always outgunned, always winning. I hope it does not come to that, Da-Un said. But be ready. Back on Centerworld, the council session was getting worse. More reports were coming in from border systems. Human ships had been spotted near Confederation worlds. Mysterious accidents had happened to several deep space monitoring stations. They are probing our defenses, Dr. Yoonji reported. Standard pre-invasion tactics. They are mapping our response times and identifying our weak points. Or, suggested Counselor Rinshaw, they are just curious about their neighbors. Perhaps we are misinterpreting their actions. General Inho made a sound that might have been laughter. Counselor, in my experience, when someone points a gun at you, it does not matter if they claim to be curious. What matters is that they have a gun. The humans have not pointed any weapons at us, protested another counselor. Their entire civilization is a weapon pointed at us, Taemin said. Every ship they build, every soldier they train, every strategy they develop. It is all focused on one thing, winning wars. Dr. Unji was reading new data from her intelligence sources. I have more information about human military doctrine. It is disturbing. She activated a new display showing tactical analyses. Humans do not fight the way we do. When we have conflicts, we try to minimize casualties and damage. We look for negotiated solutions. Humans have a different approach. What approach? Asked the council speaker. Total war. When humans fight, they fight to completely destroy their enemy. They do not stop until the enemy surrenders or dies. They do not care about their own casualties if victory requires sacrifice. The chamber was quiet. Many of the counselors had never heard of such tactics. There is more, Yoonji continued. Humans have a concept called scorched earth. If they cannot hold territory, they destroy it so their enemies cannot use it. They would rather rule over ashes than let someone else rule over gardens. Barbaric, whispered Counselor Veltar. Effective, said General Inho grimly. From a military standpoint, it is very effective. Admiral Taemin received a priority message on his communication device. After reading it, his face went pale. What is it? Asked the council speaker. Our science vessel, the Peaceful Explorer, has gone missing near human space. They were conducting routine stellar surveys. Their last message was a distress call saying they had been intercepted by unknown vessels. The chamber erupted again. This time, the anger was directed at the humans. Several counselors demanded immediate military action. We must rescue our people, declared Counselor Veltar. If the humans have taken hostages, we cannot negotiate with them. General Inho and Dr. Yoonji exchanged worried glances. They both knew that if humans had captured a Confederation ship, it was probably because they thought it was spying on them, and if humans thought they were being spied on, they would respond like cornered predators. Admiral, Inho said to Taemin, I recommend that you take a fleet to the border, not to attack, but to show strength. If the humans think we are weak, they may decide to strike first. How large a fleet? Taemin asked. Yoon-G checked her tactical displays. Our largest ships, our best crews. Everything we have that could pose a threat to human forces. That would be the largest Confederation fleet assembled in 3,000 years, the council speaker said. Yes, Inho replied. And if we are lucky, it will be large enough to make the humans think twice about starting a war. But as Taemin prepared to leave Centerworld with his battle fleet, he could not shake the feeling that luck had nothing to do with what was coming. The humans had been preparing for this moment for 3,000 years. They had built their entire civilization around the idea of fighting the Confederation. And now, finally, they were going to get their war. In human space, Admiral Da-un received reports of the massive Confederation fleet moving toward their border. She stood on her bridge, looking at the tactical displays that showed hundreds of alien warships approaching human territory. So it begins, she said quietly. Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, the fleet is in position. All ships report ready for combat. Good, Da-un replied. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that the Confederation has chosen war. Tell them that we are ready to give them what they want. She looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there an alien fleet was coming to test everything humanity had learned about warfare in 3,000 years of exile. All ships, she ordered. Prepare for battle. It is time to remind the galaxy why they were afraid of humans in the first place. The prisoner exchange was supposed to be simple. The Confederation would return 2 human pilots who had been captured near the border. The humans would release the crew of the science vessel Peaceful Explorer. Both sides would pretend that everything was normal and peaceful. Commander Wu Jin Harper stood in the docking bay of the neutral station, watching Confederation security guards bring in the human prisoners. The pilots looked tired, but unharmed. Behind them, Confederation soldiers held weapons that were probably older than some civilizations. Easy money, muttered Sergeant Dongmin Park, one of Wu Jin's Special Forces soldiers. These aliens do not know how to fight. Stay alert, Wu Jin replied quietly. Something feels wrong. He was right to be worried. The Confederation guards were nervous. They had heard the stories about human violence. They had been told that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. When one of the human prisoners stumbled and reached out to steady himself, a guard panicked. The energy blast hit the human pilot in the chest. He fell backward, smoke rising from his uniform. For a moment, everyone in the docking bay froze. Then, Wu Jin moved. His weapon was in his hand and firing before most people realized what had happened. The guard who had shot the pilot was dead before he hit the floor. 2 more guards fell as Dongmin and the other human soldiers opened fire. Get to the ship, Wu Jin shouted to his surviving pilot. Go, go, go! The docking bay erupted in chaos. Confederation soldiers tried to return fire, but they were not trained for real combat. They had spent their careers doing parade duty and crowd control. The humans had spent 3,000 years fighting things that wanted to kill them. The battle lasted 3 minutes. When it was over, 17 Confederation soldiers were dead. The humans had rescued their pilot and escaped with only minor injuries. But the damage was done. Security footage of the fight spread across the galaxy within hours. Billions of peaceful beings watched human soldiers move with deadly precision, killing trained guards like they were children playing with toys. Admiral Taemin received the news while his fleet was still traveling toward human space. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Unity, watching the security footage for the 5th time. They moved like dancers, Commander Bora said, her voice shaking. Like killing was an art form. Dr. Yunji's analysis was worse. Admiral, I have studied this footage frame by frame. The humans were not just fighting to escape, they were fighting to send a message. Every move was calculated to cause maximum psychological impact. What kind of message? Taemin asked. That they are not afraid of us, that they can kill us easily, that if we want a war, they are ready to give us one. The main fleet was 2 days away from human space when long-range sensors detected the first human ships. They were smaller than Confederation vessels, but they moved with an aggressive confidence that made experienced officers nervous. Sir, reported the sensor officer, I count 27 human vessels approaching our position. They are not responding to communication attempts. Admiral Daoun's voice came over the communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Confederation Fleet, this is Admiral Thompson of the Earth Defense Force. You are approaching human territory with weapons charged and shields raised. Explain your intentions. Taemin activated the reply channel. Admiral Thompson, this is Admiral Fourth. We are here to discuss the incident at the prisoner exchange. We seek a peaceful resolution. Peaceful? Daoun's voice was cold. Your people fired first. Your people started this fight. If you want peace, turn around and go home. We cannot do that, Taemin replied. Too many people died. There must be consequences. There will be, Daoun said. Just not the ones you expect. The communication ended. On Taemin's tactical display, the human ships began moving into attack formation. They were outnumbered 4-1, but they showed no signs of retreating. Sir, Bora said, should we deploy for battle? Taemin looked at his fleet. 400 ships, the pride of the Confederation military. Surely that was enough to defeat 27 human vessels, no matter how advanced they were. All ships battle formation, he ordered. The Battle of Proxima Gate began when Captain Minho Briggs decided that his destroyer Soul's Fury was going to make history. His ship was the smallest in the human fleet, but it was also the fastest. While the larger human ships engaged the main Confederation force, Minho took his destroyer straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Target their command ship, he ordered his weapons officer. Everything we have. The Soul's Fury opened fire with weapons that the Confederation had never seen before. Railguns that threw metal slugs at incredible speeds, plasma cannons that could melt through any armor, nuclear missiles that turned space into miniature suns. But the Confederation fleet was huge. For every shot the Soul's Fury fired, dozens came back at her. Minho's ship was fast, but not fast enough to dodge everything. Hull breach on decks 4 and 5, reported his damage control officer. We have lost main engines. Secondary engines, Minho ordered. Keep us moving. Sir, his weapons officer called out. We are down to 20% ammunition. Orders? Minho looked at the tactical display. His ship was dying, but the Confederation flagship was right in front of him. One last chance to make a difference. All remaining power to forward shields, he ordered. Ramming speed. Sir? The helmsman's voice was uncertain. You heard me, Minho said calmly. Ramming speed. If we are going to die, let us die like humans. The Soul's Fury accelerated toward the galactic unity. Confederation weapons tore through her hull, but she kept moving. Her reactor began to overload, pouring deadly radiation through her compartments. All hands, Minho announced over the ship's communication system. It has been an honor serving with you. Remember Earth. The destroyer struck the Confederation flagship just behind the bridge. The impact drove her deep into the larger ship's hull. A moment later, her reactor exploded. The blast tore through both ships. The Soul's Fury was completely destroyed. The galactic unity broke in half, her crew dying as atmosphere rushed out into space. Admiral Taemin had been thrown from his command chair by the impact. He lay on the floor of his ruined bridge, looking up at stars through a hole in the ceiling. Around him, his crew was dead or dying. Commander Bora crawled over to him, her green scales dark with her own blood. Sir, she whispered, the humans, they really are as crazy as the stories said. Taemin nodded weakly. In the space around them, the battle was ending. The human ships had taken heavy damage, but they were still fighting. The Confederation fleet was retreating, their officers too shocked by what they had seen to continue the fight. The humans had won, not because they had better ships or more weapons, but because they were willing to die for victory, because they fought like the legend said they fought, without fear, without mercy, without any concern for their own survival. Admiral Daoun's ship moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors. Her own vessel was badly damaged, but still operational. Around her, space was filled with debris from both fleets. Admiral, her communication officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the Confederation flagship. Admiral Vorth, is requesting medical assistance for his survivors. Da-Yun considered the request. The smart military decision would be to let the aliens die. Dead enemies could not fight again. But humans had rules about treating wounded enemies, even when those enemies had started the fight. "Send medical teams," she ordered. "Rescue anyone who can be saved." Later, as human medics worked to save Confederation lives, Da-Un stood in her damaged bridge and looked at the cost of victory. The Soul's Fury was gone along with her entire crew. 3 other human ships had been destroyed. Hundreds of her people were dead. But the galaxy would remember this battle. They would remember that humans did not retreat. They would remember that humans would rather die fighting than live in defeat. Most importantly, they would remember that the stories about humans were true. All of them. Senator Youngsu Palal of the Peaceful Systems Alliance watched the battle footage in his office on Centerworld. He had been one of the voices calling for negotiation with the humans. Now he understood why that had been impossible. "They are not like us," he said to his aide. "We fight to achieve goals. They fight because fighting is what they are." Across the galaxy, worlds that had been peaceful for 3,000 years began to remember what war looked like. Children who had never seen violence watched human soldiers moving through smoke and fire, killing without hesitation or regret. The time of quiet was ending. And everyone knew that when it was over, the galaxy would be a very different place. On Earth, the news of the battle was received with grim satisfaction. Humanity had been preparing for this war for 3,000 years. They had known it would come eventually. They had known that the galaxy would never accept their existence. Now, the real fighting could begin. The war lasted 18 months. In galactic terms, it was barely a moment. In human terms, it was long enough to remind the universe why some species should be left alone. The Confederation had numbers. They had thousands of ships and billions of soldiers. They had the resources of hundreds of worlds. But humans had something the galaxy had forgotten existed: the willingness to pay any price for victory. Every battle followed the same pattern. Confederation forces would outnumber the humans 5-1, sometimes 10-1. The humans would fight anyway. They would use tactics that horrified peaceful species: ramming attacks, suicide runs, weapons that destroyed everything including themselves. The turning point came at the Battle of New Geneva, when a human admiral named Hayuk J. Morrison ordered his entire fleet to detonate their reactors inside a Confederation formation. 300 human ships died. 2,000 Confederation vessels were destroyed. After that, Confederation commanders began to understand what they were fighting. Not just soldiers, but an entire species that had turned warfare into a religion. Admiral Taemin Vorth sat in a medical chair on the hospital station at Centerworld. His injuries from the battle at Proxima Gate had healed, but his mind carried scars that would never fade. He had seen Captain Minho's destroyer ram his flagship. He had watched human soldiers fight until their last breath. "The war must end," he told the Confederation Council. "We cannot defeat them, not because they are stronger than us, but because they are willing to lose everything to win." General Inho Voss nodded from his chair. The old soldier looked even older now, aged by months of watching young people die in battles that made no sense to peaceful minds. "The humans are not trying to conquer us," he said. "They are trying to make us understand that conquest is impossible. Every battle they fight, every ship they sacrifice, it all sends the same message: leave us alone or we will make you pay more than you can afford." Dr. Yunji Kaur had spent the war studying human tactics. Her reports filled thousands of pages, but they all reached the same conclusion: humans fought in ways that no civilized species could match. "They have turned death into a weapon," she reported to the council. "They use their own willingness to die as a psychological tool against us. Our soldiers know that humans will never surrender, never retreat, never give up. That knowledge makes our people afraid before the fighting even starts." Councillor Veltar, who had been one of the strongest supporters of the war, now looked defeated. "What do you recommend, General?" "Peace," Inho said simply. "Not because we want it, but because the alternative is worse." "Worse how?" asked the council speaker. Because if this war continues, we will have to become like them to defeat them. We will have to learn to fight without mercy. We will have to be willing to sacrifice everything for victory. And if we do that, we will no longer be the civilization we were trying to protect. The peace negotiations took place on a neutral station in empty space. Ambassador Hyunwoo Chen returned to represent humanity, along with Admiral Da-Yun Thompson. For the Confederation, Admiral Taemin and Dr. Yoonji served as negotiators. But the real surprise was the third human representative, Elder Sujin Moon, a 97-year-old woman who had been a general during the early days of human exile. She moved slowly and spoke quietly, but when she talked, everyone listened. "You want to know why this war happened?" she said to the Confederation delegates. "You want to understand why humans fight the way we do?" "Yes," Taemin said. "We need to understand." Sujin activated a holographic display showing images from human history. Battles fought on Earth, colonies destroyed by alien attacks, children learning to use weapons before they could properly walk. 3,000 years ago, she said, the galaxy tried to make us into something we were not. You wanted us to be peaceful. You wanted us to give up our weapons and trust you to protect us. When we refused, you tried to force us. That was different. Species, Dr. Yoonji protested. The current Confederation is not responsible for what happened then. No, Sujin agreed. But you are the result of what happened then. You are a galaxy that learned peace by destroying everyone who disagreed with you. You made peace by making sure only peaceful species survived. Hyunwoo leaned forward. The question now is, what happens next? Do we continue fighting until one of us is extinct, or do we find a way to coexist? What do humans want? Taemin asked. To be left alone, Admiral Da-Yun said. We have our own worlds, our own space, our own way of life. We do not want to conquer you or rule you. We just want you to stop trying to change us. But your weapons, Dr. Yoonji said. Your military. You could threaten the entire galaxy. Sujin smiled sadly. Doctor, do you know what humans have been doing for the past 3,000 years while you enjoyed your peace? Fighting wars, Yoonji replied. Yes, but not with you. We have been fighting things from outside the galaxy, creatures that wanted to invade our space and destroy everything they found. We have been protecting this galaxy from threats you do not even know exist. The room was quiet. This was new information that changed everything. What kind of threats? Taemin asked. Admiral. Da-Yun activated her own display. It showed battles fought in the darkness between galaxies. Massive alien ships that looked like nothing in Confederation space. Creatures that fought with technologies that made human weapons look primitive. The Devourers, she said. The Void, Hunters. The things that live in empty space and feed on civilizations. For 3,000 years, humans have been the shield between them and you. Every war we fought, every battle we won, it was to keep those things from reaching your peaceful worlds. Why? Dr. Yoonji asked. Why protect a galaxy that exiled you? Sujin's expression was sad but determined. Because it is what we do. Because someone has to stand guard while others sleep peacefully. Because that is what humans are for. The negotiations continued for weeks. Slowly, a new understanding emerged. The galaxy needed its peacekeepers, but it also needed its warriors. The Confederation could maintain its peaceful civilization, but only if someone else was willing to fight the battles that peace could not win. The treaty that emerged was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans would remain independent, controlling their own territory and maintaining their own military. But they would also serve as the galaxy's defenders against external threats. Human warships would patrol the edges of known space. Human soldiers would respond to crises that peaceful methods could not solve. In return, the Confederation would provide support and resources, but would not interfere with human culture or government. It is not perfect, Taemin said as he signed the treaty. But it is better than war. Peace is never perfect, Sujin replied. But it is always better than the alternative. Admiral Da-Yun stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the stars. Around her, human ships moved through space alongside Confederation vessels. The two fleets had stopped trying to kill each other and started learning to work together. It was not easy. Confederation officers were still uncomfortable around humans. Human soldiers still did not trust aliens. But slowly, both sides were learning that they needed each other. Admiral, her communication officer, reported, "We are receiving long-range signals from the edge of the galaxy. Unknown contacts approaching Sector 7. Dayun nodded. The Void Hunters were coming again, but this time, humanity would not fight alone. This time they had allies who understood why some fights could not be avoided. "Signal the Confederation fleet," she ordered. "Tell them it is time to see what humans have been protecting them from." 5 years later, Dr. Nari Helen published her book about the rediscovery of humanity. It became the most read work in galactic history. In it, she wrote, "We thought humans were legends. We thought they were stories told to frighten children. We were wrong. Humans are not legends. They are the people who make legends possible. They are the ones who stand in the darkness so others can live in the light. They are the guardians, who ask for nothing in return except the right to be themselves." The galaxy was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. It was the quiet of people sleeping safely, knowing that someone else was standing watch. It was the quiet of a civilization that had learned the difference between peace and helplessness. And sometimes, when the night was very dark and the stars seemed very far away, that quiet was broken by the sound of human ships moving through space. Ships carrying people who had chosen to be warriors so that others could choose to be peaceful. The galaxy remembered the old stories about humans. But now they understood what those stories really meant. They were not tales of monsters to be feared. They were stories of guardians to be grateful for.